Hello and welcome everyone to Vator Securities Software as a Service event. My name is David Myslinski and I will be your moderator today. I work as a director with Equity Capital Markets team here at Vator Securities. For those of you not yet familiar with Vator Securities, we are a boutique investment bank out of Stockholm, Sweden, focusing on growth companies in the Nordics. We work with both private and public companies. Last year we helped raise more than 150 million euros to boost companies in such exciting areas as cancer diagnostics, data-driven fund management, and edge artificial intelligence within logistics. This year has taken off with 2 transactions within gene therapy and esports, 2 areas which for sure will have a significant impact on our health and leisure time in the future. In the coming months, we have planned for more technology-themed events, so stay tuned. Today, I have the honor to present to you 5 successful companies who deliver software as a service. Even though they operate in separate fields, their common denominator, their business model, makes them quite comparable. The growth in the software as a service business model is driven by several underlying growth trends. Perhaps the most important trend is the shift from on-premise IT spend to solutions in the cloud. This established trend is made possible by secure IT infrastructure and has proven far more efficient than on-premises servers. A second trend is the decentralization of procurement of IT services, making basically any single employee of a company a potential customer. Thirdly, the forward visibility provided by subscription business model appeals to both management and shareholders, not to mention other investors who apply relatively high valuation multiples to software as a service companies. PS multiples for the publicly traded companies stretch from 2.5 to over 20, with a majority of in the range of 5 to 10 times. After today's presentation, we will get the chance to dive deeper into the growth trends and more with software as a service specialist investor Johan Krona with Cloud Capital. Johan Krona will also guide us through what has made him a successful investor in this space. And finally, probably the most inspiring thing in my work is the opportunity to work with dedicated entrepreneurs and their companies, where it is also a pleasure for me to introduce you to today's participating companies: Lime Technologies, Irisity, Lithium, ZignSec, and 24/7 Office. With that said, please extend a warm welcome to Nils Ulson, Chief Operating Officer of Lime Technologies.
Thank you very much for that, and thanks a lot for having us here today. My name is Nils, and I've been in the company now since 2006, and I will take over as CEO starting from 1st of May this year. So what do we actually do at Lime? At Lime, we focus 100% of CRM, and we have done that for many, many years. We have done a fantastic journey in Sweden, and what we're trying to do is that we're trying to export that knowledge into Norway, Finland, Denmark, and now also Netherlands since this summer, so we can become the leading supplier from the Nordics within the CRM field. And we will do that by focusing on the end user, so we can make their day much simpler and also more fun working day. We do everything by ourselves, so we develop, we sell, we implement, and we support our solutions throughout the Nordics. And we do many deals every year, more than a couple of hundreds deals every year. When we look at an implementation, we divide it into 3 different steps. We talk about structure, efficiency, and then at the top, the customer magnets. So talking about structure, if we look at the companies that we meet, they often have data in many, many different places. It could be Excel sheets, one for handling their pipeline, one for handling their prospects, one for handling their customers. They, of course, have Outlook or Gmail. They have folders on their shared server. So what we're trying to do is that we're trying to gather all that information into one place so it's accessible and searchable for all employees. When we have the foundation in place, then we can start working with the efficiency part. And that's when we do the integrations with the ERP softwares. It could be transferring a prospect into a customer from the CRM into the ERP, but it could also be transferring the financial data from the ERP into the CRM. It could be about marketing automation. So when someone signs up for a white paper, they should get an automated email day 1, day 7, and day 30. And if we reach our why, that's when we turn our customers into customer magnets, and that's our mission. So we would like to help our customers to become really, really good of sales and customer care so they can help their customer in a good way. If we look at Lime today, we are operating, we have offices in 8 different locations. We have Sweden, we have Norway, we have Finland, we have Denmark, and now also Netherlands. And we are totally around 300 employees working only with CRM. And if we look at our key success factors over the years, and I would say the first bullet point here is really what Lime is about, long-term profitable growth. If we look at the last 20 years, we have had an average growth of 19% and an average EBITDA margin of 25%. We are today selling subscriptions, and approximately 60% of our revenue is recurring revenue. As I started with, we do deals with many customers, and we have a large customer base, more than 5,000 customers today, and we have a low customer concentration. So our top 10 customers stands for less than 8% of our revenue. And if you would ask people about Lime, what would they actually say? And I really hope and that they would say that we are a value-driven company, that we have a really, really good corporate culture, and that we have highly engaged employees, which is shown by a high employee net promoter score. That is 38 today. So the agenda, we will address the CRM market and I'll look at our position on the market. We will take a look at our 2 products, Limego and Lime CRM, our profit and loss, of course, our strategy and growth drivers going forward, and end up with the culture part. And of course, some questions in the end as well. So if we look at the CRM market, in 2018, Capgemini did a market study about the CRM market, and we can see that historically it has grown approximately 10 to 12% per year. If we look previous year in 2020 with the pandemic, of course, it was a very special year, and the estimation is that it was more or less a zero growth. But going further and forward, we estimate that it will go back to normal levels again. If we look at what our market is worth, we can say that it's worth around 5 billion Swedish kronor today, and Capgemini states that the market will grow into 7 billion in 2023. If we look at the companies that operates in these markets, we can have approximately that 40% of these companies today already have a CRM system. But for us, that's a fantastic potential. It means that we have 60% of the companies within that market that still doesn't have a CRM system. And if we look at the deals that we do today, approximately 50% of the deals are replacement deals, where we replace Microsoft and Salesforce and so on, and 50% comes from the first-time buyers. Maybe they have Excel sheets, they have Outlook, and maybe an own-built system. If we look at our position on the market today, we are competing with Microsoft and Salesforce, more or less on all markets today. And they have an indirect model, so they work with resellers. And it often the big consultancy firms like Accenture, Capgemini, CGI, Deloitte, and so on. And what they focus on is the big implementations with a lot of hours, so they can implement it with many consultants. And if they succeed, maybe they do 5 to 10 implementation per reseller a year on the market. If we look at us, we do the opposite. We focus on a direct channel. So we don't have any resellers at all. We develop the software, we sell the software, we implement the software, we support the software, and we take care of the governance. So we work close with our customers in all steps of their journey as a customer for us. And I would say that our biggest unique selling point today, that's our support. So we handle more or less about 70% of all incoming tickets directly within the first contact with the customer. It could be chat, email, or phone, of course. If we look at the competitive landscape, we can divide it into the micro, the small business, medium, local enterprises, and the global enterprises. And we have decided to focus on small, medium, and local enterprises. The main reasons why we are leaving the micro and the global behind is that in the micro, there is a lot of competition. It's a lot of freemium software, and of course, the churn is quite high. If we look at the global ones, of course, as the name states, it's global installations, and you need implementation consultants on each market. But it also demands a lot of hours, and that's not our business model. So the competition in small, I would say that that's mainly the local competitors. It could be Web CRM in Denmark. It could be SuperOffice in Norway, Team Leader in the Netherlands, and also as local as Stockholm with Upsales. Within the medium and the local enterprises, it's mainly Microsoft and Salesforce. Our products, we have two great products today, Limego and Lime CRM. Limego is a standardized product that we have packaged with our knowledge within sales and customer care. We launched it in 2014, so it's still quite early in the product life cycle, and today it only stands for 5% of our revenue. So what is Limego about? All of you are familiar with Netflix and Spotify, and what they are doing with music and film, that's exactly what we do within Limego. Because Limego is fully packed with all the company and business information within the Nordics. That means that depending on how our customers behave in our software, then we can recommend them what type of customers they should be in contact with. So that makes Limego a fantastic both inbound and outbound sales tool. Lime CRM, on the other hand, the main uniqueness and the unique selling point of Lime CRM is the flexibility. We have a little bit higher target group with 20 to 500 users, but I would say that our biggest user today is around 1,500 to 2,000 seats. And let me give you an example of the flexibility of Lime CRM. One of my customers, BMW Financial Services, they have been a customer for many years, since 2010. And they, as all customers, they have the basic need. They would like to handle the contact persons. They would like to handle company information. They would like to handle to-dos, write notes, save documents. But their business model is so much more than just that. So in their solution, we need to handle all their drivers. And connected to the driver, they also need to see what kind of car is they're actually driving. They need to have fully control over the financial contracts that is signed by the contact person. And when someone calls, they need a ticket management system. So that means that we can adapt Lime CRM so it really suits our customers' needs, but it has the basic functionality in the bottom. So we are very, very proud of our products, and we really like to sell and implement them. But I would say it's the combination of our products with all the features and us as a vendor that really creates the competitive advantage for us, that we work closely and we own the whole chain. We are primarily focusing on 4 verticals today. Utility, real estate, wholesale, and the consultancy business. And within these verticals, we should be the market leader. If we look at utility and real estate, that is segments that are very well defined. It's big deals, it's complex deals, and it's long sales processes with a high order value. Wholesale and consultancy, we do many deals every year within those segments. The order value is a little bit lower, and the complexity is not that high. So what have we done? We have packaged our knowledge within those verticals because we know what kind of pains these companies have. And we have a pre-built database that covers and solves those needs. Together with that, we have already standardized integrations towards the most common surrounding systems in their environment. And it means that we can be proactive both in our sales and marketing, so we can really drive the need of buying a CRM system. This is, of course, very important for us when we enter new markets, so we can keep a high focus. And today, those verticals stands for approximately 50% of our revenue. And if we do that good, that will spill over, and so we can sell the standard solution, which stands for the other 50% of our revenue. As I said, we do many deals per year, and we did that in Q4 as well, 2020. So the customer concentration is low, and as I said, the top 10 customers stands for 7.4% today, and the top customer only stands for 1.3%. And it has been declining, and we will continue to do that. We have done a lot of deals in Q4, and we can see a slightly increase towards our existing customers, mainly due to the pandemic, I would say. If we look at the P&L, one of our most important drivers is, of course, the ARR development. And the green bar here, we can see that it has a growth in Q4 of 20%. The pink part is our old service agreement when we sold the software upfront. It's still on a quite stable level, and it means that we maintain and keep our old existing customers. And I would say that the pink part here, as you can see, where it says 42, that's a great potential that we have. That's revenue coming from our old upfront customers. They pay a yearly service agreement. And if we look at that, that's worth around 10 euros per user and month. That should be compared to the new subscription customers that pay approximately 50 euros per user and month. And what we will do is that we will try and start converting them into a subscription model. And in that, we have approximately a potential of around 150 to 200 million Swedish kronor going forward. We have 4 different revenue streams, and we started the transformation of our company, Lime, in 2015. And you can see the blue thing here with that we had a upfront revenue was around 28%, and today it's less than 1%. We have done the opposite journey in the subscription part, whereas today is around 45%. As I said, we have a quite stable level on the service agreement, and we continue to have growth in our expect services as well. So looking at the revenue, in Q4, we had a growth of 14%, and the organic part was 13%. And if we look at the last 12 months, we ended up as a total growth of 17%. We can see the split by geography that the Sweden had a growth of 15%. But we can also see that the countries outside Sweden, Norway, Finland, Denmark, they were much more affected since the societies was closed down and only had a growth of 8%. And of course, that's something that we're not satisfied. And we can also see that if we look at the traction across the geographies, where Sweden had a growth the last 12 months of 17% and the rest of the countries 16%. If we look at the profit, we had good EBITDA development, and we ended up at 31.4% in Q4 2020. And if we look at the last 12 months, we ended up at 29.3%. On the right-hand side, you can see that we kept the EBITDA margin on a quite stable level during the transformation from upfront to subscription, and it was around 22-23%. Now, as I said, the transformation is more or less over, and starting from Q4 19, we can see that we have a nice growth in our EBITDA margin. If we look at our OPEX, if we look at the personal expenses in percentage of net sales, that is going down, which means that we have a good scalability in our business model. And the last 12 months, it goes down from 58.7 down to 54.3. If we look at the other operating expenses, I would say here that we have a bit of a positive corona effect, where we where we, of course, can save costs. And I would estimate that that's around like 8 million Swedish kronor. But on the other hand, if we wouldn't have had Corona, then I would say the top line would have been more than those 8 million. So what's our strategy going forward? As I started with, we are operating in a market where we have 10 to 12% growth. And of course, that's good in itself, because that gives us a good starting point. We have done it very good in Sweden, and we have established Norway, Finland, Denmark for a long time, but we haven't really seen the effect. So we have a great potential in the Nordic countries. We opened up Netherlands now during August 2020. So we have that as a market that will come in a couple of years. And we will continue to evaluate new markets going forward. We have a large existing customer portfolio, more than 5,000 customers. So we have done a couple of acquisitions in the past, and so we have a great upselling potential. And as I mentioned, we have the old customers where we can transform them from the old service agreements into the new subscription model going forward. We will continue to focus a lot on our products, both to develop new add-ons by ourselves, of course, but also look into the mergers and acquisitions going forward. And that's what we are looking for, is more the add-ons to strengthen our product portfolio, both to new and to our existing customers going forward. And we will continue to focus on our 4 verticals: utility, real estate, wholesale, and the consultancy business. If we look at the culture part, and this is, as I started with, a really, really important part of Lime's DNA. We put a lot of effort into this because one of our biggest success factors is that we are very good at recruiting and onboarding new employees. Last year, we had more than 5,000 candidates applying for jobs at Lime. And we hired around 70 new people in 2020. And we will continue to recruit more people. One fun thing last year was that 50% of all new recruits were women. Usually, we take the new recruits and onboard them in our headquarters in Lund for 5 weeks. Then they continue the path of a trainee for the next coming 10 months. Now, in January, we'd had to do the first onboarding digital, and the feedback, I would say, has been good. The new stars has mentioned that they feel it has been a good introduction. But I would say that we know how important it is to really get everybody down to Lund, get them to meet each other, and that's how we build our fantastic culture going forward. I mentioned the Employee Net Promoter Score. It's on a good level today, 38, but we can see that it has decreased the last couple of months. And I would say that it's the feedback, and when we look into it, it's mainly due to the Corona, that people are missing seeing each other and are tired working from home. So we are really looking forward when we can meet everybody again. So finally, our financial targets. And if we look at that, we say that our sales growth should be above 18%. And if we look at the last 12 months, we made it to 17%. The EBITDA margin should be above 25. And in the last 12 months, we made it to 29.3%. The net debt in relation to EBITDA should be less than 2.5, and today it's only 0.1. And we should have a dividend policy that should correspond to at least 50% of the net profit. And the proposal that is on the table today is 53%, which means 250 Swedish kronor per share. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nils, for a really interesting presentation, quite extensive. I hope I can find some things to cover still. On the more soft side, you will take over as the new CEO, May 1st, as you said. Congratulations. This classic question, how does it feel and what should we expect from you as a CEO going forward?
Exactly, the sport question. No, but of course it feels fantastic. I really look forward to take on this role and to take on this challenge. I've been in the company for 15 years, and we have a good strategy already today. But of course, we will try to increase, and we have new financial targets which we are trying to reach with higher growth, of course.
I see. I suppose you wouldn't want to answer the next question directly, but do we stand for see some dramatical changes in your first time as a CEO establishing your own territory, so to say?
No, but Lime is very much that we do things together, and we have a great management team, and that has been in the company for a long time. I've been here for 15 years, so of course we have taken the decisions together. But what I would like to focus on is, of course, to really improve the competitiveness in our products, to invest even more there, both individually with our own development team, but also with M&As. And I will also look into new markets so we can expand into more countries within Europe.
Perfect. Are there any particular markets that you find interesting at this stage, besides the ones you already mentioned in the Nordics and Netherlands?
We are looking into a couple of markets, of course, and mainly the beer drinking countries, I would say. So the Dutch region, UK, Germany, and so on. So there is a couple of alternatives going forward.
I see. And also, you mentioned this in your presentation, but what would you say are your most important growth drivers, top line?
No, but I mean, we have for us, even if we will continue to do acquisitions to strengthen our product portfolio. The main growth driver at Lime is the organic growth, and that is to both use our existing customers to give them more value by adding new add-ons within the software, but also to focus on the verticals. And on top of that, we will continue to look into acquisitions, both for the markets, but also to add more value within the software.
Yeah, and you often come back to the products. You want to invest more in the products. You want to acquire new products to widen your product offering. And you also mentioned in the report that you have discontinued a couple of acquisition discussions as the products did not live up to your expectations. Can you elaborate a little on that?
No, but I mean, we have a large customer portfolio today. So I mean, and they buy things from Lime. And we have a good relationship with our customers. So, and we would like to help them to cover the needs that they have, not only one part of the journey. So, for example, when we look at customer service, I mean, going on there, we have chat tools, we have AI that we can help them to be even more customer centric and effective in their daily work. And that's why we look into adding new add-ons within our products.
I see. So you also mentioned that you probably would have had a much stronger top line hadn't it been for the pandemic. How exactly, do you know more in detail how the pandemic affects your customers and their buy solution decision?
Yeah, but I would say that starting from mid-March approximately, of course, everybody panicked and we could see a drop in new sales. And of course, then more or less all the decisions were paused. Luckily, I would say that we have our existing customers, and they continue to invest and they continue to improve their solutions all the time, so we can sell more things to them. But we also have the 4 verticals, and each vertical are differently affected of the pandemic. Of course, the consultancy business are more affected, but if we look into the utility and the real estate businesses, I mean, they are quite often public owned, and people still need electricity and they need somewhere to live. So they are not that much affected and continued to do investments. So we have, I would say, a quite good balance, but we can see that it was a drop in new sales. The countries outside Sweden, Norway, Finland, Denmark, I mean, that societies closed down. that affected us more than it did in Sweden. So I'm very proud of how we have handled the pandemic as a company, and that everybody has had the tiger mentality to really push their limits.
And have you seen what signs of is this status quo all the time now, or have you seen like signs that it is becoming easier for your customers to act?
Yeah, I would say so. It comes new restrictions all the time. I would say today it was new restrictions in Norway, if I'm not mistaken. So, of course, that affects. But we can see that we have had a good order intake starting more or less since June. So then we have growth in our order intake. Of course, we don't know how good it would have been if it wasn't the situation that we are in. But I would say that we can see that things are improving all the time.
I saw in your presentation your EBIT margin was as an all-time high, way surpassing your financial targets.
Yeah.
Is there a limit to how profitable you can become? Will you choose to, at some level, reinvest all the money into product development, or how should we view it?
But you're totally right there. It's on a very high level today, and we will prioritize growth towards profit. So I mean, we are trying to invest, and we have hired 70 people and we are trying to invest in sales and marketing. So we are doing investments all the time. And for example, now in Netherlands, of course, that's an investment. We will not see any big results in Netherlands in 2021, but this is for the future. So we have a market taking off, and that's the long-term profitable growth that we will head for. And but growth is prioritized.
That's a clear message.
Yeah.
So finally, what do investors have to look forward to from Lime in 2021, if you just summarize a few key bullets?
No, but I think, we have our financial targets, and of course that's a good guideline to what they should expect, or what you should expect. And I would say that Lime is about long-term profitable growth. And that's what you should expect from Lime, that we should deliver over time, both on growth and on EBITDA margin.
Okay. Thank you very much, and good luck on your journey.
Thank you very much. Thank you for listening.
So now, a short break. We'll be back 1:30 with Andreas Höje, CFO of Irisity.
Hi, my name is Andreas Höje, and I'm the CFO at Irisity, and I'm here today to present the company. I thought I would give you a brief introduction to the company, and then focus more on the security industry, which we are focusing on. And then, of course, give you a status update of the company, where we are today, but also the plan going into the future. But if we start about the company, Irisity is a Gothenburg-based company with about 40 individuals in the organization, whereas almost half of the team is within the R&D department. We have a long experience, more than 10 years. We have customers in more than 10 countries around the world. And we are listed on the Nasdaq First North Stock Exchange here in Stockholm with a market cap of just over 135 million euros. But why are we here, and why are we working with the security industry? If you look at the security industry, you can see that it's undergoing a large transformation at the moment, from the manpower dependent to more digital security industry. And this is where we come in. What we do is that we develop advanced deep learning powered algorithms with the help of AI and machine learning. And with those algorithms, we can help the security companies digitalize. We do this through that we partner with the global security companies, and we do this through a SaaS business model. If you look at the security industry, what the security companies do is their objective is, of course, to protect people and assets from different kind of threats. The way they do this now is, of course, with the help of surveillance cameras. But the surveillance cameras that they are using are mostly sensor trigged, but also have very poor analytics. This causes, of course, a lot of problems for the security operations center, since a lot of the information coming from the surveillance cameras has a poor quality. And this causes that a lot of the alarms coming to the security operations center are false alarms. And the security operations center has big issues by seeing the difference between false and true alarms. And with that, they have to act on a lot of false alarm. And this causes that the guards have to go out on a lot of false alarms to the end customers. This, of course, generates a lot of cost for the security companies, but also a poor customer service. And this is where we come in. With the help of our algorithms, we can create the DNA-based analytics, which can upgrade the surveillance cameras. And by doing this, we can get a high precision in the video alarms that are sent from the surveillance site to the security operations center, which means that they only get the true alarms and the true alarms only. This, of course, makes the security operations center data-driven with a high efficiency, and of course creates a good, high customer value, since now they only have to focus on the true alarms, and the guards can only act when it's something real happening at the surveillance sites. If you look at this value chain for the security industry here, you can see that we have 3 different customer segments, and these are the 3 segments that we are focusing on. The first one is the camera manufacturers. The camera manufacturers are also undergoing a large transformation, and it's been doing that since the last decade or so, from analog to IP, then server to cloud, and now from cloud to edge, which means that they can embed the analytics into the camera. This, of course, creates a lot of benefits for the camera manufacturers. The second segment that we are focusing on is the security companies. The same is here. They are also undergoing a large transformation, as I've mentioned earlier, from manpower dependent to sensor and now to AI. And of course, with the help of AI, there are also a lot of benefits for the security companies. As I mentioned, accurate information and can focus on the important events and the true alarms. Cost savings at the SOC and guarding, since they now can do more with the same resources or the same with less resources. Also, the new revenues from added functions that we can deliver come with it to the table, and also they can leverage on the existing infrastructure. The third segment that we are working with is the enterprise or the end customer, but we are focusing on the enterprises since we want to focus on the large end customers. The same is here, also undergoing a transformation from deterrent to forensic now to real-time surveillance. Of course, with this we can have proactive guarding, they will be more cost-effective, and increase protection from new functionalities. And I think the last point here is also one very important point, that we can leverage on the capex already taken. As you can imagine, that the end customer has spent a lot of money on installing cameras on their site already. So by using Irisity, which is a camera independent, they can upgrade the cameras they already have in place to state-of-the-art top modern cameras with the help of our analytics. If you look at the 3 different segments, I think I've explained a little bit the burning platform here, but you see also how Iris can help in this. For example, with the security companies, that by adding our analytics, we can help them digitalize and automate and improve their competitiveness and, of course, improve their margins, since they can now be much more cost-effective. Also with the camera manufacturers, that they're seeing that the hardware is getting less and less important. More important is what you actually can do with the camera. And of course, as I mentioned, with embedding our technology into the camera, they can deliver the whole package to their customer. And also with the enterprise customers here, that we can now go on being proactive and act on real time when something happens. And of course, as I mentioned, leverage on the capex that they have already taken. If you look at this market here that we're focusing on and those 3 segments, we have a different kind of relationship how we want to work with them. If you look at the security companies and the camera manufacturers, we do this through a partner relationship, while at the enterprise is direct sales. Our business model to all of them is a SaaS business model, which means we get paid per license, per camera, per month. and one camera can have several licenses connected to it. I will show that a little bit later in a video here. So that means, of course, we can get several revenue streams from one camera. It's a huge market within all the 3 segments. And if you look at the current status for Irisity within those 3 segments that I've mentioned here, is that we have a signed partnership agreement with G4S within the security companies. G4S, which is the world's largest security company. The camera manufacturers, we have a signed partnership agreement with Axis, which is the second world's largest camera manufacturer. And we are piloting several security companies and camera manufacturers around the world. If you look at the enterprises, I've chosen here to show you one of the verticals we're working with, and that's the rail vertical, since we have developed a specialized algorithm called a Rail Defender. And here, as you can see here, we won the procurement with SL here in Stockholm last year. And we are also piloting several rail companies around the world. As I mentioned here, we do this through a SaaS model, and we have a lot of different algorithms and functions, what we can do with the algorithms. I think just to mention some few here that we have here is the dynamic anonymization. We can anonymize in real time. And long distance detection. We can detect from a very long distance. I will show you a case example of this now in a couple of slides. And of course, we can, as I mentioned, we can be used on, we are camera independent, so we can be used on any type of camera. We can also be used on site, in the cloud, or also embedded into the camera, to mention a couple of ASPs for us that we have. When you look at the algorithms here, we also develop specialized algorithms, which we develop to solve specific challenges or problems. Here we have mentioned some of the Rail Defender, Violent Behavior, which are the 2 newest ones we have developed. I will also soon show you exactly a little bit more how they work. But firstly, I want to give you a little bit a picture to show you the competitive landscape, because of course we're not alone doing this around the world. But we feel that we have a really strong position in the market here. As you can see, we have placed ourselves up to the right here. And if you look at the companies that are close to Irisity, that's what we can say are direct competitors. Companies that are also developing some kind of algorithms that can be used within the security industry. But we also have indirect competitors. For example, as we've shown here with the camera manufacturers, where we here you have an example of Axis, Bosch, and Robotics, that also have some kind of algorithm analytics in their cameras. But as you can imagine, they are very dependent on hardware, since they can only be used on their own cameras. And also the security companies, just to give you a little bit picture here, to see where we have sorted them in of size and how long they come on their digital transformation. And as you can see, most of them are very close, still very manpower dependent, but they all have been very clear that they are working to become more digital. If you look at their presentation, read their reports and everything, they're all talking about this shift to become a much more digital security company. But we believe that for them to be able to do this, they need to work with a company like Irisity to help them with this shift. And as you can see here with the logotypes here, that we are already partnering or piloting several of the companies you can see on the screen. We are working within a lot of different industries. Industries that we've seen where it's a big, where this kind of algorithms and analytics is needed, both that we have seen, but also together with our partners when you see industries which can be very interesting for ourselves and for our partners. I will also now show you a little bit how the analytics work and the advantages with it. And the first example here is from Estonia, where we have a logistic hub. As you can see, without using Iris of surveilling this logistic hub, you would need to install 22 cameras. But by adding Iris to the analytics there, you could do the same or more with only 4 cameras. As you can see in this picture here, with these 4 cameras, we can cover a much bigger area than what you could do with 22 cameras without Iris. And of course, with this, you can imagine the cost saving for this customer here with the cameras and installation. But I think also very important is to mention the significant time savings for the operators in the SOC, the Security Operations Center. Another example here is from Göteborg. This is a building site. It's a large area, so it's hard to surveil. As you can see, a large area. But by using Iris, and in this example here, it was enough with 1 camera to be put in one of the cranes, as you can see in the picture. And with our algorithms, they could cover the whole area. And as you can see, we could detect something on a very long distance. In this case, an intruder that was there. As I mentioned, we are camera independent, and what's also one of the big benefits with Iris is that we can upgrade existing cameras. So the customers can upgrade the cameras they already have installed in place and make the old cameras with quite poor image quality top modern state-of-the-art cameras. In this example here, you can see both a thermal camera and an optical camera, which have been upgraded with Iris, and we can detect on a very long distance when it's an intruder. The same in this picture as well. Also an optical camera and a thermal camera. Where on a long distance, almost impossible to see with eye, that we can see when it's an intruder in the area. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, we also develop specialized algorithms which are developed to solve specific challenges or problems, and this we do together with our partners. And here's an example of some of the specialized algorithms that we have developed. And the last year, we came out with both the Rail Defender and the Violent Behavior. We also have other like the Flame Defender, School Defender, Pipeline Defender, and Powerline Defender. And we're also working with a fall detection I will show a little bit later here. And I also have a video now to show you a little bit how these specialized algorithms work. And in this video, we can see that they're using in this camera. They're using different kinds of algorithms, and of course then we get several revenue streams from that camera. Here's from a tram station in Göteborg. As you can see, here's the Rail Defender, alarming directly when someone is crossing the tracks. This can of course be used also on large train station, central station like this. Here with bad lightning conditions, the same. We can alarm directly. Of course, we don't alarm when the train is coming in and people walking on and off the train, even if they're walking into the alarm area. Here you can see we're detecting large objects on a long distance. Here's also on a very long distance we can detect something, also using thermal cameras in this case. And also, of course, with bad lightning conditions, we can also detect something on a very long distance. Here you can see our flame detector detecting a flame on a long distance. And we can also set things like, for example, if people are moving in the wrong direction, we can alarm on that. If people are lingering in a no-go zone or place where they're not supposed to be, and we can set a time on that, so they should alarm after, for example, a minute or 2 in this case. Here is a post estimation. We can see if someone has an odd behavior, and like this person here is feeling ill and falls down. We can then directly send alarm. And also abandoned object, that if someone leaves an object and it goes a certain amount of time, we can then alarm directly on it so they can act. Here is our violent behavior. So you can see with the post estimation, we can detect directly when it's a violent behavior going on. Also in the large groups, as you can see here, with wearing big jackets or a backpack or something, you can see the post estimation following the different body movement parts and then the movement, so we can detect when it's a violent behavior. Another algorithm I would like to show you is our fall detection. As the name says, we can detect when someone is falling or laying down. In this picture here, you can see firstly to the left, you can see the new Axis TPU camera, which have the iris embedded into it. So we can place this camera, for example, as in the picture, at the home apartment of some elderly, if you want to monitor and see if they, for example, get ill, fall down or something like that. And of course, by having the analytics embedded into the camera, you don't need to have a server in place or connected to the cloud, as an example. Also have a short video here to show you this algorithm. Here you can see we are following the body movement with a post estimation. And when the person here is, in this case, feeling ill and have to lay down, we can then, we notice that, and we can then alarm. We can alarm directly, or for example, as in the other previous video, we can alarm after a certain amount of time, as an example. I also would like to just give you a short update of the financial situation in the company. In November last year, we closed a financing round of 50 million Swedish kronor, where we got in TIN Fonder, Lannebo Fonder, and Handelsbanken as investors. And the proceeds from that investment round will be used to boost sales and rollout on all the 3 different segments that are presented here today. And of course, we will increase the speed of developing new specialized algorithms that can be used in the market. Of course, you don't only need a great product, you also need a great team to be able to reach the potential for a company. And we believe we have that at Irisity, both in the management team, but of course in the whole organization, both with individuals who have built successful companies before, but also individuals who are specialized within this field, both technically, but also with the product and the market, as an example. And I think that was everything from me here today. Thank you. And if you have any questions, please feel to contact me. You can see my contact information on screen.
Thank you very much, Andreas.
Thank you.
Quite interesting, impressive. Your monthly recurring revenue grew by 25% last quarter. What are the drivers for your growth, you would say?
Of course, that's the rollout that we are seeing now, that we are doing. Mentioned that we signed some partnerships last year with G4S, and of course we are working on an international expansion and working with the SaaS business model. So of course, with this expansion, we also expect the MRR to increase now going forward.
Yes, and given the pilots that you mentioned, one would expect this trend to continue rather than flatten out.
Yes, exactly. That was also what we expect, that the MRR now will keep on increasing going forward at the same time as the rollout with the security companies, and then also now going forward, for example, the camera manufacturers will increase.
I see. You present a lot of arguments for your products from a financial perspective, but I can imagine they also help save lives and, stopping people from getting hurt, etc. Do you have any data on that, or have you considered those softer factors as well?
I don't have an exact data or any figures to give you here today, but of course, as you mentioned, that is, I would say, just as important as the financial data, or even more important, at least for the end customers here, that especially with our new specialized algorithms also, that the rail defender, we can save lives at the train stations, people falling down tracks and things like that. You've seen, I think we all seen those kind of horror films from on the news and things like that, if someone falls down on the tracks. But of course also with the violent behavior, if when it's fights and things like that, I think the good thing with our algorithm, you can act directly when something happens. Also with the new algorithm fall detection, you can have for example, at homes, elder's homes and things like that. So if they fall down, something happened, we can directly act on it, and they don't have to lie there for several hours before someone, or days even, if when something before something happens.
Yeah, and that's great, and that's all in the positive scale. Do you have any issues with integrity? I mean, this might be considered by some as a bit more intrusive than normal cameras to people's personal integrity. Is there even such a discussion, or am I totally in the...
No, of course you're right to some certain extent. This is of course a big issue in this field when you're getting analytics into surveillance cameras. Of course you can do a lot with the surveillance. I think you can all look to Asia and see how they're working with it there, more to track people, individuals. We've been very clear from Irisity that this is not what we want our product to be used to. Our product is to protect assets and people, not to track them. So for example, we have the anonymization, so we can anonymize everything, so we can't see who the person are. You can't track the person, but you can see when something happens, so you can act on that. So integrity is a very important question for Irisity, and we are doing everything we can to protect integrity for the individuals.
I see. Okay, so you have entered into these exciting partnerships, as we have talked about. Could you elaborate how those partnerships are developing and a little bit more perhaps on the increased rollout mentioned in the report?
Yes, of course. As you mentioned, we have 2 different partnerships now. Within the security companies, we have with G4S, which were signed last summer. And together with them, we have a plan and rollout, and we are following the plan there, I think. And the focus now is within Europe, and we have together chosen 6 different countries we are focusing on, and with increased rollout within those countries. And the next step after that is, of course, whole of Europe, and then globally in all the countries where G4S is presented. And and the second partnership is together with Axis, with the embedded solution into their new TPU camera. And of course, this partnership was just communicated to the market some weeks ago, and so it's a very early stage, but we are of course working together with them now, and when they are releasing the camera, we are ready with our analytics to be embedded into the camera, so they can sell the whole package to the market.
And they do have some analytics of their own, don't they, Axis?
Yes, they have. I think all camera manufacturers have some kind of analytics, base analytics, I would say, in their cameras. But what we see, of course, with that we are independent, that we can be used on all kind of cameras, but also that we are higher precision, but also I think very important is our specialized algorithms that we, for example, the rail defender violent behavior, that when you want to have, when a customer wants a specialized algorithm to solve a specific challenge, then the camera manufacturers at the moment can't deliver that. So I think that's important. And I think also you can imagine a company, for example, like G4S or any other security companies, their end customers, of course, they have a lot of different type of camera manufacturers that they have installed. Some have Axis, some have Bosch, some have Robotics. For them to be able to sell this analytics to their end customer, they need someone that is camera independent. Else they would have to, as I mentioned, switch the cameras, and that would be a huge cost for the end customers.
Yeah, definitely. And you touched upon the competitive landscape, and to be honest, I didn't understand that vertical scale, DNN algorithm, non-DL algorithm. What does that stand for?
Neural network. But then they basically have the algorithms are produced and how you can say how good they are.
Okay.
So of course, the higher up, they're more specialized. They are better analytics that can better analytics there. So of course, in that way, our specialized algorithms with neural network there is it's better the higher up you're on the scale there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Neural networks.
Yeah.
Let me see. How about the pandemic? Has that affected your operations, and to what extent?
Yes, of course, the pandemic, I think it's affected every company around globally. So of course, us also, especially since we are, of course, working internationally with the rollout. But what we see in that is that we have, I think nothing has stopped completely, but we have maybe taken a little bit longer time than what would have happened without the pandemic. But you can see, like the G4S, of course, we signed that partnership in the middle of the pandemic. So I think everything is going forward, but maybe not in the same kind of speed that it would have done without the pandemic. So I think we, like everyone else, is looking forward to this pandemic is over, so we can have full speed ahead.
I see. And also, I asked this question to your to the previous company that was here presenting. Do you see signs of recovery? I mean, customer intake activities.
Yes or no? I think it's. I think the biggest difference we've seen from if you compare to 1 year ago. I think when the pandemic started, it was a complete lockdown. I think everyone noticed that, but after some weeks or a month there, people started to see that okay, this will be here for a longer time, so we had to change the way we work. So of course then we changed to more digitalized with more digital meetings and things like that. So of course that we've seen, and that is also working quite well for us, that we now can easily have meetings with international clients or customers around the world in that way. So of course that way we're seeing it. Things are moving forward. But of course, then we're talking about the second wave, third wave, and then some countries suddenly are locking down. Then of course we are losing a little bit momentum for some weeks in that country, but then they're opening up again, and then we are speeding up again. So it's going a little bit in waves at the moment. But I think, as I mentioned, we are all looking forward to this pandemic to be over.
Okay, so just one final question before I let you go.
Yes.
You've had an amazing 12 months, share price appreciating over 400%. What should investors be on the lookout for from Irisity in 2021? What's the end of the rest of the year? How does it look?
No, but I think I think we have positioned ourselves very well with the G4S, with the Axis now, and also with the procurement, for example, with SL and other enterprise customers. I think what they can expect is, of course, that we will continue with this rollout with the partners that we have now. And of course, this rollout will increase a little bit like we talked in the beginning here with the MRR and things like that, that they will see clear signs that the rollout is going forward in all 3 different segments that we are working in.
Okay, that sounds very encouraging. Thank you very much, Andreas, and good luck on your journey.
Thank you.
And I see it's 2:00, but we'll still take a few seconds of a recess before we welcome Patrick Settlin, CEO of Lithium.
Hi guys, glad to be here. I'm Patrick Settlin. I'm the CEO of Lithium. I'm here to tell you about what we do at Lithium and what we see for ourselves in the future. So to give you a little bit more color on my person, I got a long background in e-commerce. I've been the managing director for Komplett in Denmark and Sweden for a bunch of years, 5-6 years, running e-commerce business in the front line, and also been the CEO of CDON when we did the transformation to the marketplace that CDON is today. And prior to joining Lithium here, I did 4 years at Visma Group, which you probably have heard of know of, which is today the leading one of the leading software SaaS companies in Europe. I had a role as CPO there at the largest Swedish company called Visma SPCS in accounting and ERP and HR systems. So did a bit of business development, a bit of product development, and some M&A. So and now I've been at Lithium for 1 year, and for me that's pretty much a dream job. It's a e-commerce in combination with building software companies, so I get to help a lot of various companies to run efficient and winning e-commerce businesses. So Lithium. Lithium is a tech company within e-commerce. We are on a mission to make our customers outperform their peers in digital commerce. We do this by providing them with the tools to drive sales of products in a large scale, enable them to build brand and great customers experience, and also to be able to enable them to grow fast, scale fast to different channels, different markets in a good way. You might not have heard of Lithium because we're not exactly a household brand per se, but unless you're in our target market, then you probably know us. But if you've been shopping in the Nordics as well-known players like Jolly Room for kids and child stuff, or Outdoor Revolution Race, or Houdini Sports, or fashion through Lindex, or Gudrun Sjödén, or beauty by Nordic Feel and 11 maybe. Those are examples of some Nordic champions in their categories that are using the Lithium platform to run their digital commerce. Our product, it's a platform for digital commerce. The main components in that platform is what's called in tech terms CMS, which is the presentation layer, everything you usually see when you come to an online store. You got the PIM for everything product and commerce for everything order and campaign. We deliver this through cloud service, and it's a SaaS business model, so customers subscribe to the platform. We go to market with partners, so we got a pretty extensive partner network in Scandinavia today, which, of course, when this is done right, is good leverage in a partner model. It takes a bit more time sometimes to get it going, to really fly, but it's an efficient and scalable model when you actually make it in a good way. The solution per se is global. Many customers sell all over the globe, but our target market is Scandinavia. We're focused on targeting Scandinavian companies primarily. We've been doing this for a while, all the way back since '98 when Lithium was formed. But back then it was an e-commerce consultancy firm building e-commerce solutions customized for customers. During the 2000s, we gradually transformed it into product, and it was productify. And in 2013, the consultancy part was carved out, and Lithium, as we know it today, was actually born in 2013, a new company. So since then, it's a pure product company within e-commerce. Since then, we've been adding capabilities to the company, both on the tech side, of course, but also on the business side. Our latest milestone now was being listed at the Nasdaq First North Growth Market, which happened in December. Looking at business side of things, today we are a bit over 200 customers, pretty evenly split between business to business and business to consumer companies. We've got 40 plus solution partners, the aces within e-commerce in Scandinavia, the best ones at their trade. And the platform we are running transactions volumes is now surpassed 10 billion SEK, Swedish kroners. So it's quite a lot of transactions flowing through the platform, which is, of course, interesting in a potential perspective as well. Looking at some KPIs, some financial KPIs, like I said, we got a business model based on SaaS, it's subscriptions. We are now the main financial KPI is annual recurring revenue, ARR, and we are just north of 50 million now. The last quarter in Q4, we grew this number by 23%, and we've had a long row of quarters with growth in the range of 20 to 40%, which is our target for organic growth. Almost all of our revenue is stemming from ARR, so we're very much a product company, and we got a pretty good, decent, or more than decent maybe, but over 70% gross margin. The last 2 years average per quarter has been around 73%. So this gives us a lot of room to maneuver moving forward, both to build a value machine per se, but also invest like we do now in growth. The market we're on, no news here. Maybe it's in very strong growth, and this, of course, the digital transformation was already ongoing, but then Corona hit, and the last 12 months that's been a huge accelerator for anything in digital commerce. On the business to consumer side is very visible, like PostNord just came out with their report last week. We've been guessing around these numbers for a while, but then it became public that it was growth for digital commerce was 40% on the consumer side in Sweden last year. So extensive growth there, but not as much in the spotlight, but also growing very fast is the B2B market, digital commerce within B2B. And this is where we have a pretty strong position. So it's not as public when it comes to data and data sources, but we do our own survey, the Scandinavian business-to-business survey, and also there's various data sources that indicates that that confirms us in our belief that the business-to-business market will actually grow faster in the coming years. We've been doing pretty good so far. We got traction in the target market. Like I said, 200 plus customers, evenly split between business to business, business consumer. Churn is low. We've never been public with the exact number, so I can't tell you now either. But we define it as low. Customers tend to stand for a long time. When you look at the whole spectrum of customers, these are some example customers. If you're from the Nordics, you probably recognize a few of those on the right, pretty well-known consumer brands in e-commerce. Regardless if you're a B2B or business to consumer player, you stand today. You, as a business leader, you're faced with a lot of challenges. Everything is moving super fast. There's channels coming and going, opportunities, windows of opportunities opening and closing, and tons of various choices to make in your tech stack to enable you winning business. So everything this is always in play, and from our perspective, what we want to enable business leaders with is what they need is to face all this uncertainty. Flexibility, it's speed, and it's sales driving capability to drive growth, very important. And not very surprising, the last piece of the puzzle there is Lithium, because our platform delivers on all these parameters. Pretty talky slide, but this shows the value proposition, or you could say it's a blueprint for how to run a digital sales machine in these days. In the core there, you got the core components of the Lithium platform, which is the CMS, the PIM, the commerce. We got an accelerator layer around this with best practices, with everything that we've learned about e-commerce, so that you can access when you become a client to Lithium to get to the market, and everything is delivered through cloud. Around our core is other systems that you need in your tech stack if you're going to run a truly automated and high-level digital business today, digital commerce business. So, for example, you need connections, automation with your ERP, your logistics systems, but also you want to reach out through channels, personalization, and of course payment providers to get the full tech stack needed to run digital commerce at a high level today. And we can provide that. So the positioning of our value proposition. If you look on the right there's some characteristics of what we think is the perfect customers for us or customers in our target market. We are operating in what we define as a mid-market. Companies, of course, selling products then, because a platform is made for that. Between 10 million SEK up to like 10 billion SEK is the range that we're looking at. And not really some sort of roof on the platform. We haven't seen that yet, so it stands up for quite bigger loads of business than that. But that's the target market that we're aiming for. In Scandinavia, we estimate there's somewhat around like 15,000 of these companies fitting the bill, and also that you need to have ambition to do advanced digital commerce. Our product is as strong as the best product market fit is when the problem or the gain point to solve is pretty complex. You got a lot of products, you got a lot of complex products, or how they fit together. You want to do a lot of different channels, you want to do lots of different markets. That's where our product is very strong. So the value proposition then, we go to market, like I said, with a partner model, partner first, and customer acquisition model is built on two pipelines. First of all, of course, then the partner pipeline, we want them to help us, so we want to cooperate with lead generation, but we also got our own sales and marketing forces in play to control our own destiny, so to speak. But regardless of whether the lead came through our own channels or through the partner channel, we always go hand in hand up to the finish line when we close the deal. When we made a deal, customers or partners implement it and customize it to whatever customer needs there is. Usually takes like 3 to 6 months before you're up and running. You go live, and then we do joint customer success activities to help clients, customers succeed in our platform. Partners, very important for us to get leverage. These are some logotypes. If you're in that space, you probably know a few of them. To our experience and in our mind, we're working with the very best in e-commerce in the Scandinavian space. We got in numbers like 40 plus solution partners today, and an important number is also the number of certified tech consultants, because there's a strong correlation between how much the partners lift Lithium in their business or customer interactions, and how many consultants you got certified. So today, quite a bit over 200 certified tech consultants in Lithium platform. We estimate somewhere around like 600 people total in Scandinavia working on a daily basis with the Lithium platform when you count in commercial and tech sides alongside. Looking forward, financial targets, we are looking to grow organically between 20 to 40%. That's our target. We've been in this range for quite a few quarters back now. We're choosing the corridor like that because the sales cycles are pretty long, and there's some volatility between quarters from time to time, depending on the number of deals that you actually close in a quarter. Last quarter, fourth quarter in 2020, we had a 23% growth, and we've been in that range during the 2020s. Looking forward for potential, always interesting, of course. We are, just to state that again, we are in a very strong growing market, and we got a good position there, so keep capturing that. We got a good position in business to business. We are chosen a lot of time. We are in a lot of opportunities when it comes to business and digitalizing of value chains or building your digital commerce efforts. We can add a few more partners. We are working with Elite in Scandinavia, but there are a few names that we would like to add to that. And of course, these are in some cases big consultancy houses, so we can do more business with them. So there is untapped potential in the partner network in Scandinavia as well. Attract new customers by keeping the product attractive. We do invest a lot in product development and intend to do so going forward to fuel our growth. And also continue build the ecosystem around the Lithium core. Important to drive growth. A lot of opportunity there. Penetration in general in Swedish market, we are Swedes from the get-go. We entered Norway, Denmark a couple of years back, and we are making progress. And then there's always, of course, also the added opportunity to go beyond these markets because the platform as such is global. So, but the partner model that we are doing also takes some support to potential partners that we would do the market entry together with. All right, last slide, summary. Key takeaways when you think of Lithium and our e-commerce platform. It's a highly scalable e-commerce platform, and the business model is scalable as well. We got strong growth in recurring revenue. We got strong growth and a high gross margin in combination. To us, very attractive. We are well positioned and keep on investing to capture this growth potential that we see for ourselves. So all in all, I mean, we're looking to build a value machine, delivering continuous value to both customers, partners, as well as shareholders going forward. And we are in a good position to do so. So Lithium is rising. Right, that was my last thing.
Thank you very much, Patrick.
Thank you.
So amazing year for you as well. Could you elaborate a bit? What are the most important growth drivers behind your growth?
It's pretty evenly distributed between acquiring new customers and growing with existing customers. That's the main ones.
I see. And we didn't really see any spike in your quarterly revenue. One could perhaps expect that with the pandemic effect on e-commerce, etc. Why is that?
It's because we just started to publicly show the revenue split, so you can see the answer there. Over 80% of our revenue is from subscriptions, fixed subscriptions, and I think in Q4 it was 17% was coming from variable revenues like rev shares and our own variable parameters in contracts. So our business model is very much built on fixed subscriptions. So it's a longer movement for us. If you compare us to like Shopify or BigCommerce, or others that got more like a rev share sort of business model, then you would see. I mean, the spike in digital commerce comes their way in a much more we call it more clear fashion than to us. So
on the other hand, perhaps if there is a reaction backwards, so to speak, you wouldn't be affected as much either then.
No, of course.
Obviously.
That's the other side of that coin.
Yeah. Great. What trends in general do you see in e-commerce? And do you think the strong growth will continue post-pandemic, or will we see a drop there, as we just mentioned, perhaps?
Two questions in one. I mean, trends, I mean, if you look on the tech side, composable commerce or headless commerce is a pretty strong trend, but it's all about flexibility, really. I mean, any business leader, they want to handle that uncertainty or the opportunities you want to go for, and you don't know what tomorrow brings, right? So most of all, you want flexibility. You don't want those big monolith tech stacks that you had before. You want to be able to move and shift components in your tech stack to be able to go for new windows of opportunities. I think growth in general in digital commerce will slow down, like PostNord also stated in there. But that is mostly because we had such a spike this year.
Exactly.
So it will be hard to grow at the same levels after this year, right? But I mean the transformation to digital commerce it's ongoing. It's been for like 10 years, so it's not going to stop. We're only in the beginning of this, and if you compare Sweden, Scandinavia, and the penetration of digital commerce versus like Great Britain or Germany or China, which is at like 35% of commerce is done digital, we are far behind. So I mean,
and maybe even Stefan Löfven at one point or another will also.
Yeah, we'll see about that, I guess.
Yeah. Could you elaborate a bit, perhaps, how you work with upsales and increasing revenue from existing customers?
Yeah, there's two main ways there. I mean, we got the customer success team. I mean, we are focusing on primarily the most important for us, like I stated like early, and our mission is to make our customers outperform their peers. And if we can manage that, help them with doing that, we will also get that will be beneficial for us and our business as well. So that's our main focus. So customer success team is doing that. And also there are the variable revenue streams also. As even though it's not as sort of significant as with Shopify, where you got a rev share business model firsthand, it's also some effect in that, of course. Then when customers grow, there's also a bigger part of variable revenue coming our way. So,
I see. And perhaps could you tell us a bit about your latest acquisition, Irisity, and your thoughts about that, and what kind of synergies this will bring, and how you view dropshipping as an offer?
First of all, we didn't acquire the company. It was an R&D acquisition, so we bought the rights to the code. Dropshipping per se is, I mean, it's a commercial tool to both go to market with a broader product range and do it in a very cost-efficient way. So I mean, a lot of customers in our target market are using dropship in various sort of levels. But they usually it's hard to say usually, but it's kind of common that they've built their own solutions. There's some automation gaps there that we would like to address. So we think we can put a very attractive offer out there in combination with our core tech stack. So that's what we're looking to do, but it will take some time before you see it in the market.
Okay, I see. And just to conclude, what do investors have to look forward to from Lithium in 2021?
Oh, big things.
For sure.
No, but since we are listed, I can't really tell you about all our plans, but we are really looking forward to good 2021. Of course, shift to digital commerce will be strong and continue in many years to come. So we are well positioned. We are looking to catch this growth potential that we see for ourselves. So looking to make big things happen. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Patrick, and good luck on your journey.
Thank you.
And we take a short break, and we'll be back in a few minutes with Tim Schneider, the CEO of ZignSec.
Good afternoon. That's Tim Schneider from ZignSec. I'm very happy to be here. Thanks to Vator to have the opportunity to talk here and present ZignSec. About myself, I'm a CEO of ZignSec since last April, and we did quite some fantastic stuff that I want to present. So on our end, everything is about to identify and to onboard customers. Before I start, maybe I should introduce myself a little bit more. The past 20 years, I was involved in setting up and running large-scale payment systems and risk companies. This runs from licensed entities and listed entities, refactoring systems and built them from scratch, having been involved in setting up financial institution licenses and also running one of them. So that basically is the past 20 years. And when you say payment, you also have to say compliance, you have to say risk, you have to say identity. And often in the past, when I thought about, okay, how do we do this? I wish there would be something like ZignSec. So we are listed on Nasdaq First North Growth Market. We help regulated and non-regulated entities to simplify their identification and compliance workflows. And we digitize, automate workflows. And the best of all is that we make things super easy. To cover a little bit about the problem as such, why ZignSec and what is the issue in total? Running global businesses and running licensed businesses, there are too many international and local regulations. Although there are a lot of standards, there are missing real international unified standards. In operations of any size, let it be a startup, let it be a listed company, very often during the growth phase, it happens that you have manual processes. And therefore, what we do is we help to automate. And I think I lost the screen. Can it be? No? Yeah. So in order to mitigate the risk of errors, in order to become faster and more efficient, we help to create workflows and identify persons and companies equally. You can think of a network across the world that is needed in order to unify certain workflows and to make a streamlined process. So if you would need to identify someone in Sweden, it's pretty easy. Everyone knows bank ID, everyone has it, and it's straightforward. But once you cross the border, once you have to do international business, once you have to identify someone in the US or in Asia or even only in Germany, it becomes a little bit more tricky. And in each and every country, there is a very specific way of how you would identify a person and how you would onboard a company. So even if you're based in Sweden, but you need to do the due diligence or you would need to onboard someone in Germany, you would have to comply to local regulations. And that is what we have brought onto our network. And connected with various solutions from KYC and AML solutions. Digital signatures are among the solutions. We do have age verification solutions. It's very important if you're even are allowed to send out or to ship a product. You would have to identify first if you can do the business. So we're aggregating and orchestrating global verification and fraud prevention methods in over 200 countries. And why we can say 200 countries? Because ZignSec is not the one single solution. There is a bank ID in Sweden, but there are specific solutions in Norway, in Denmark, in Singapore, and we connect to these solutions. So that's why we can add up to so many countries. So basically, this is a very, very short, happy path of how our clients would like to sell and to their users. At the one end, the user wants a product. That can be that he applies for a credit card, that can be that he applies for a loan, that can be that he simply wants to buy an age-restricted product online. And on the other hand, our clients, in best case, they just sell the product over to the user. But that's basically not how it's happening in reality. So what is happening in between that someone wants something online and that someone gets something, there is a whole lot of processes and a whole lot of verifications and identifications in between. So just to guide you through, if I would like to apply for a loan online, that's actually a real case that we have configured for one of our clients. Then the first thing is that you have to click apply somewhere. And then the next step is that through an open banking interface, it's first checked, okay, is the same name, is this the same person that has started the process? Is enough money on the account that I can even grant the loan? And then it has to be taken to credit reference agency. Then some biometric checks need to be done according to anti-money laundering laws in specific jurisdictions. If it's not in Sweden, you also would have to do additional checks like PEP and sanction checks. And in the end, then you would have to sign for a contract. So for the user, initially the product itself is like very easy, but in the background, there are a lot of activities. So how do we do it, and how do our clients are able to connect with us? And that has become really pretty simple these days. When we started, everything was API based, and we already have started to aggregate all the functionalities through an API. But what if you cannot use an API for whatever reason? The reason can be you don't have resources in-house to use APIs, or you don't want, or simply you don't have the resource to go and connect via an API. And in this reason, we have recently launched our no-code solution. And the reason why it is so good is you really just need to configure a specific workflow. Just, for example, what I mentioned before. Connect it with a front end and apply the user interface, the user experience, the design of the respective brand. And we can deploy. And then you can use such a loan application or a credit card or an onboarding of a merchant in a matter of a week. The great thing about our market is it's big already. It's a huge market that we are addressing, and it's growing. So according to a source, Markets and Markets in 2020, the identity solution market is growing to 30 billion by 24. And also something that's really interesting is 38% of this market is in Europe. So it's just in front of us. I would guess many of you want to know, okay, so what is your revenue model? What we are doing is we are selling B2B only. So we do have recurring revenues on the one side from the transaction business. and we do have recurring revenues from the workflows that we configure. So on the one side, if you only need a PEP or a sanction check or a very single check, an identity check, that would be a single transaction with a cost attached to it. Or if we configure a whole workflow, then a combination of that would apply. We run on a roundabout and good 70% product margin. We have a very low entry fee for our business. What it means is if you would have to go to a single provider that is connected into our network, you would A, most likely don't have the volumes, and B, would need to have all these integration fees and supplier fees and verifications that normally happen with such providers. So we take all of this burden already off and aggregate everything onto our platform. I used to say that we have a very sticky business model, and the reason for is that we do a good part of the business that our clients don't want to do. So just as this bulky process before, what our clients want is simply to sell their product, but have to do for regulatory reasons or for compliance reasons or for fraud reasons, have to do multiple checks in between. And this is what we do for the clients. The good thing that we do with our clients and how we acquire new merchants is also that we work through so-called multipliers. It's not exactly as you would think of an affiliate network, but with certain clients, we do integrate once, and they bring a lot of other clients. So we would not sign up multiple times immediately. We would always sign the direct contract with these clients. But these networks bring and flush more clients into our network. So, for example, MUV in Latin America, they run a mobility app. Something you know, and you order a taxi online. And what we have done for them is a specific gender check and also certain checks before a payment is done. But they also do run a money transfer network. And for that side, we are doing the anti-money laundering checks. And through these businesses, more and more are coming in. And the same in Unicapital in the Philippines. Unicapital is a licensed stockbroker, and so a lot of other brokers are using their platform. So now we'll see and face continuous signups through these channels. And one pretty large project we are running right now with Schufa is interesting because it's just in front of our doors here. And the amount of clients that are connected into the Schufa network are just, they have like over 6 million business customers. So we will see a pretty good runway on these signups. We have some selected customers over here. Some of these partners, they are, some of these customers are also partners. And obviously, we're increasing them on a pretty good pace. Yeah, so that's it here from my side. Just some words about the team. Colleague of mine, Johan, is also very experienced in financial market, 20 years of experience. The board is with Marcus Andersen, one of the co-founders, and chair of the board is Alexander Albec, who is in EG7, and I guess in Sweden also pretty known. That's it from my side. from the presentation.
So I happen to know that you've had a fantastic historical growth of consecutive quarter-on-quarter growth of around what? Can you help me out there?
Yeah, so we do have 20% growth quarter-on-quarter. And from 2019 to this year, we are right around about, we are 113% growth from 2019 year on year to this year. We do have two key figures communicated that even before we started on Nasdaq. So this is 100 million in revenues, SEK, and 20 in EBITDA by end of 2020. So these are the communicated figures, and this is also the rate that almost through like only organic growth that we will be able to reach.
I see.
So only with the new or the last acquisition that we did, we will exceed. And so this is something that if the slide would work, I can repair it if you like.
Oh, so fine.
Yeah, so if you add the acquisitions and also the past acquisition wise, we are already exceeding that target. So if you don't go for any further acquisition, then we are already there.
I see. Yeah. I see. And just to see if I got what you do is you're an aggregator of ID checks, anti-money laundering solutions, etc., etc., and you can offer these services in over 200 countries because you have each regional solution.
Yes, we always integrate with the best solution per region, and make sure that our clients don't need to go and integrate on their own, but be sure that okay, if I go into this region, I have a partner ready with ZignSec in order to connect with these identity providers.
Yes, yes, and you recently also connected Freya EID and MitID in Denmark. What do these partnerships mean for you?
I mean, MitID is very interesting in this regards. We just got accepted, and we are one of 5 brokers in that market. So there was an existing scheme in Denmark, the NemID, and this scheme is phasing out. And from 21st of May, the new scheme is starting to phase in, taking half a year, and then the so-called MitID scheme will be the one. And you have 2 solutions: either you become a broker or you go to a broker. And we have become a broker. We are already listed also on the MitID official site, so currently around about 55 million transactions are done per month through the old scheme. So these are the levels to be expected within the providers that are there, and 5 are there right now. And I don't expect so much more to come.
So that gives you a strong market position.
Excellent market position, yes.
Very interesting. And could you tell us a bit more about the no-code solution for your platform? How has this been received by your customers?
Excellent. I mean, it's a trend anyhow in IT and in certain development areas to move into a no-code era. For us, what it means is that companies that want to deploy very rapidly, companies that have to fulfill regulatory requirements according to the new legislations that are coming out, and they are coming out pretty fast these days. So if you think about the AML5 directive and AML6 already like 1 year later. So if you're a huge organization, in order to fulfill certain workflows, in order to fulfill certain requirements, you will have an IT project, you will have a lot of project work and cost involved in order to roll out such a new workflow. And with our solution, it is a matter of a conversation like this with the compliance manager, with the product manager, with the lawyers, how it should be. We start to configure and it can be deployed in a matter of a week or two.
So you don't have to get into that line waiting for your
You
turn
really
for IT
cut
development.
exactly. You really cut out this IT development project cost, and it's much more predictable. Okay, I need something, I get it. So it's kind of it's like a shelf solution that you can adapt. Yeah. So you can almost think of, okay, I get it off the shelf, but you get it tailored if you like this.
Yeah. And is this common? I mean, do your competitors have this solution also?
It's very difficult in that area to talk about a competitor. Every time you tell me, this is a really good solution, I say, okay, tell me more. Why don't we integrate them? So many companies that would be deemed as a KYC competitor, they are not really a competitor because they only take part in a very small part of the whole workflow. And we will then take this and another one and another one and another one, combine this into a full workflow that is ever expanding. So we expand by market and we expand by solution. So always if you say, okay, but what about them? This is great. So, okay, so let's integrate.
Yeah, and that's why I love to label you as an aggregator. And if we view as an aggregator, are there any other aggregators out there that you compete with?
There are a couple of business automation. So I would then say business automation platforms. They can obviously be used by a certain clientele, and you can then use certain providers to combine, but you would need to aggregate them on your own. So you'd need to walk the way.
So not really any other company with the same business idea as you?
No, not really. I mean, not on that path, not on that scale. Yeah. So whenever there is a company, when you say, okay, so why don't you do this? I would say, let's have a discussion first. Let's talk. Because combining one or two things in a row, I would not call is like a competition to what we do.
No,
yeah?
no.
There is no reason to. It's not only the identity path. It's also so we do onboarding for some financial institutions, right? So if you have to do a due diligence, if you're card acquirer, yeah, if you do merchant onboarding, then we can do all the due diligences with the partners connected that they need to do. If that would be a client business, then we connect or are connected into the specific providers that their specific workflow requires.
I see. I see. And that also is a good segue to my second last question, actually. You mentioned you're multiplying customers, the customers that you can use as multipliers because they, in their term, have other customers. Can you please explain again how that works? Perhaps. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, any integration and depending on how you would integrate or set up certain workflows takes some time, even if it's fast. But with some customers, because of their sheer size and because of their merchant network, it makes sense to go for an extra mile and to go out of the standard to integrate deeper than you would normally integrate for every day. And if you go and decide to do this, and that partner is having a large network and is then able to streamline their businesses through these channels, then these are these classical multipliers.
So they, in terms, would you would get a revenue share from them when they sell your services to their customers?
It's other way around in the most scenarios. So if businesses come our side, then there would be a revenue share model with that party. But we have lesser cost in sales acquisition, and it's an ever-growing channel. If they grow their merchant base, or if they activate more and more merchants in their network, then our transactions grow, aka we make more.
So your margins increase for every new customers
Yes.
because you will
Yeah.
get lower prices.
Without us really having a new and stronger sales effort on that side.
Perfect. So lastly then, you have done 2 acquisitions pretty recently. Should we expect more acquisitions in 2021, and what else, if anything?
Yeah, yeah. I mean that is no secret on our side. That on the one side we really take care to have a strong growth on the organic side, but that we also are looking out for acquisitions, and these acquisitions would always be alongside to add more functionalities or add new markets. We do have active targets, so we are always in discussions and on the lookout. And yeah, so I would say we always have to be very careful here, but yes, it's definitely something that we are looking forward to.
Okay. Thank you very much, Tim, and good luck on your journey.
Yeah, thank you.
And it's 3:05, I see. We'll take a short break and be back with 24/7 Office CEO Stale Risa, just briefly. Thank you. So welcome back, and please extend a warm welcome to 24/7 CEO Stale Risa.
Thank you very much. It's good to be joining this event, and thank you for the opportunity to attend and present. Because of the current travel restrictions due to the COVID, I need to stay here I'm stuck in Norway, not allowed to go into Sweden. But I guess we've all been used to working digital for the last year, and in 24/7 Office we've been digital for more than 20 years. So next slide, please. My name is Ståle Risa. I'm the CEO of 24/7 Office, and 24/7 Office, our vision is to empower businesses for the future. So we provide technology, digitalization, efficiency for the administration of businesses and their employees. By being user-centric, we provide tools for employees to do their job more efficient and better. And with efficient employees and real-time data-driven decision-making, companies perform better and maximize their potential to achieve their goals. On our journey, we have a proven track record with high growth. We have a recurring subscription model, and we have a leading cloud technology platform. Next slide, please. On our journey to empower businesses for the future, we deliver a leading cloud-based AI, accounting, and ERP platform with the possibility to build your own ecosystem through integrations. We're an ambitious company. We're aiming high and focus on keeping and continuing to build the culture of the company that has taken us where we are today. And through our core values of trust, being brave and curious, we work daily to create and keep active promoters from all our stakeholders, whether it's our customers, partners, resellers, or investors. And through the 24/7 Office way, we grow together as a team with our customers and partners, and we have ambitious growth targets in our company. However, we are going to grow with profitability going forward, with the rule of 40 as our guiding star to balance growth and profitability. In the next slide, we can talk more about the product offering, because 24/7 Office, we are born in the cloud. The product is developed for the browser as 100% web-based applications since the beginning in 1997. The system consists of modules. So in the core of the offering, 24/7 Office is an accounting and financial management tool. And surrounding that, we have modules for project management and time tracking. We have banking and finance modules. We have a CRM module, and we have payroll. And we can't be the best of breed in all kind of system. So that's why we have an extensive API surrounding the platform, so that our customers can build their own ecosystem around that. And we have also partners that allows us to go into different market verticals. The system is customizable, and built with a modular approach so that we can target customers in more or less all sizes and industries. It's built for automation, speed, and scalability to fit customers of all sizes, also large and more complex customers in our software. So if we go to the next slide, we have more a look and feel of how the product is. It's built for both kind of office workers being on a computer at the office, as well as traveling or not in the office. It's extensive and function-rich system with modules for financial management, which is AI powered. We also have an ERP system with everything you need to run your business. So if you go to the next slide, we can say that our goal is to automate everything for managing a business. Everything from the cost side to the revenue side and reporting and integration with other systems our customers are having. And that on the cost side, we've been talking a lot on AI and automation, how you receive inbound invoices and automate large volumes of invoices. Next slide, please. Through our ecosystem, our customers, they can build their own custom integrations, and that's specifically important for larger organizations which have different software in different areas of their business. And one way of automating and being more efficient is to do a digital information flow from one system to the other. So integrations are an important part of the digitalization. And we have a set of standard integrations where you can plug and play it from a menu of integrations, which for SMBs, the SMB segment is very good. But for the larger organizations, it's more important to have custom integrations where they can integrate their whatever they have of business processes into our technology platform. If you go to the next slide, we can talk more about the positioning of 24/7 Office. 24/7 Office, our ERP suite, the accounting and financial management, is built for professional users in larger organizations where high transaction volumes are in place, which separates us from the competition in the accounting space, the online accounting space, where most of the systems out there are for small and micro businesses. So if you look at the Swedish market, where Fortnox are, where they are getting to the larger part of their customers, that's where we are overlapping and taking over from them and being able to serve larger organizations. Because in larger organizations, you are professional users. You have large volumes. You need to be very efficient, and that's why we built our the processing of invoices, where you can use your right hand on the numerical keyboard on your computer, and that gives you a lot of speed. But it's also you need to be more trained and knowledgeable worker to do that and know your accounting. Whereas in small and micro businesses, you have more research and guides that will help the user to make an invoice into the ledger. So advanced functionality, capabilities for efficient use, and automating large volumes. Because that's another difference, is that the bigger company, the higher the volume and the more complex the management reporting will be. And that's where 24/7 Office are having a very good product for our direct customers. The platform, 24/7 Office Accounting platform, is also true accountants have a very good way of serving the accountants and customers. So through the channel, we provide our accounting partners with a system where they allow their customers to give manual or to give data entry into the system, so that you have an app where you can approve invoices, you have digital communication with your accountant, you have your time sheets entered in, your expenses, your mileage, and all those kind of input modules, as well as reporting and dashboards. So that's what we serve through our accountants. So if you go to the next slide, we can see that we had a very strong customer growth over the last 5 years. We are now almost 60,000 businesses. Everything from PwC in Sweden, we have HSB doing automated, where we automate their accounting and invoice workflow for all bostadsrättsföreningar in Sweden. We have BDO, we have ECIT, we have large retailers, and also governmental organizations like NSD, which is the Norwegian Center for Research. And we also announced in Q4 some AI contracts where you have large accounting firms cross-border between both Norwegian and Swedish. They can, with our AI on top, they serve all their and automate all their invoice workflow. We can on the next slide we can go into the target market we're addressing. So we have two go-to-market strategies. One is accounting firms and their clients. So we provide accounting firms with a technology platform, so they can serve their clients on one digital platform for all clients. And then we have the direct channel, where we sell directly to SMBs, kind of 5 to 50 employees, and then we're adding more large companies and enterprise customers, where we automate accounting, their financial, and also we have a couple of acquisitions I'll come back to later as well that will position us even better in the enterprise market. Over to the next slide. We've communicated that we are pursuing an M&A strategy as part of our growth journey going forward. We have throughout the last year we raised over 400 million Swedish kronor plus, and in addition to that we have a convertible loan also from our investors. So we are well funded. We're backed by institutional investors in the Nordic region, Europe, and the US. And in our M&A strategy, we look at kind of 4 main categories: companies that give access to new verticals, companies that will give access to new geographical markets, or smaller SaaS technology companies that will either strengthen what we already have, or give access to some of these either new verticals or geographical markets, where we can come in and help them with scaling of their business. We've done it. We have 60,000 businesses that we can help them to sell to, and that's kind of the proposition we have there. And then we have the fourth pillar, which is more kind of opportunistic, looking at legacy systems that are not that haven't been able to convert to a SaaS model yet. So if you go to the next slide, we can go through some of the acquisitions we've done the last years. So we have invested in a time tracking tool, which gives us access to new vertical. It also goes into the HR direction. It's an example of a smaller SaaS company, and they have a very good growth traction now after we've been with the company for a bit over a year. there's a lot of interesting things going on in the fintech space. So we've invested in a bank so that we can take control of the end-to-end of payments of a business and transaction financing and payments. We have Exicom, which is serving the enterprise market for consulting businesses. They have Oxford, Scania, and PwC auditors as customers on their project management software, and that combined with the automation of accounting and AI is a very solid offering in the enterprise market for project or for project-oriented companies. And then we have Masterplan, which is a material resource planning for production companies, which also gives us access to new vertical, new geographies. It's a US company, and it also has, it is a SaaS company with a SaaS offering. And also what we've done is that we unified the 24/7 office offering from going from where we've been today as a Nordic focused. We've added on the US, 20% of its US and Europe, so that we have a much larger total addressable market going forward. So if you jump two slides forward, the next one, please. In 2020 was a solid year. We had a growth of 28%. We dramatically improved our profitability from minus 16 million to plus 16 million in EBITDA. So the focus we've added on continue growing, but adding on the profitability, especially also during the COVID period. We've seen that we managed to continue grow and increase the profitability at the same time. If you go to the next slide, we measure the unit economics in 24/7 office, so that we would monitor how many months of revenue do you need before you recover the acquisition costs for a customer, which is slightly under 12 months. And the benchmark and the threshold we've set is that it should be around 12 months. That's where we get the most efficient sales and investment in sales and marketing. Because if you look at the flip side of that coin is that how long do you really have the customer? And that's where we measure the lifetime value to CAC ratio, which should be more than 3, but we have 12. So we have long stickiness of the customer. They use 24/7 office for a long time, and being able to recover the acquisition cost in less than 12 months is a very healthy figure. If you go to the next slide, that's kind of where we focus. Have control of the acquisition cost, the lifetime value, providing good products to our customers. We are financially going to grow with profitability within the Rule of 40 as our guiding star on balancing both growth and profitability. If you go to the next slide, we'll see that where we are focusing on our next journey to increase usage from our existing customers, adding on new customer wins and increase the lifetime value. There are two very interesting areas to dig into, which is AI, where we already started. HSB is there. We have large accounting firms, so that's really taking off at the moment. The next one, the other part is fintech, where we integrate banking, but with the investments we've done in the bank, so that we can really automate what we see, or automate bank reconciliation. And through PSD2 and the European directives, opening up that market is a very interesting market, not only for payments, but also on financing and credit cards and all other financial services. So through that investment we have with the bank, we have a real partnership where we can really innovate and be in the forefront of the banking industry as well. And I think I stop with the presentation there, and if anyone have more questions around AI and fintech, I'm open to that in the Q&A session, and also happy to talk more with people afterwards. I think that's it with the time for now.
Okay, thank you very much, Ståle. Pretty impressive, I must say. So perhaps we can pick up where you left off with the fintech, the opportunity there. Is this just another vertical that will give you some extra cash on the bottom line, or do you think there's a significant strategic value to this endeavor as well?
For us, it's a really strategic part. You see that banks are trying to get into the ERP space, and kind of banking and accounting are fitting very well together. And what we've looked at is that there is some problems with kind of, we've integrated with kind of 80% of the banks. So whatever bank you have, you can automate your banking, but still the banks, they charge a lot of money for that integration. PSD2 were to open up that, but it's none of the banks are best in class. There are always some kind of hurdles the more you dig into it, especially in the B2B space. So for us to really innovate and be in the forefront of adding this into one offering, we saw that we need to invest in the bank to be the largest shareholder. And because of ownership regulations, you're not allowed to own more than 10% of a bank in Norway, and you can apply for the financial institutions to be able to own up to 20%. So that's application is there. And if you ask the customers, they really want to have the banking in their accounting system. So there's been a survey in Norway where 64% say they want their banking in the ERP system. And if you go as a customer, you go to and try to figure out where are you going to get control of your company's financial. You go to the accounting system and you go to the accountant. Kind of 55 to 60% go there, and only 4% goes to the bank advisor. So the customers want it. The banks are charging too much. There's not automation there, and that's something we're going to do. More efficient, more automated, at a cheaper price. So it's definitely a strategic move to go into the fintech space.
Thank you. That seems to be strong rationale behind that decision, and a lot of customer satisfaction. So you mentioned several verticals where you're active, several verticals where you have performed acquisitions. How do you keep it all together and keep, still your focus? And how do you know if something is, worth pursuing or not? How do you make that analysis?
The core is always kind of accounting and financial management. That's kind of in the center of it all. And surrounding that, you have modules and products to strengthen that kind of accounting and financial management. One example is that our long-term vision kind of automate everything. On that journey, you need to integrate, you need to have as much kind of functionality as possible into one system, and also to be able to automate and empower the business for the future, provide them real-time decision making. They need the good data. And that's the reason for having this big suite of modules. So that if you use the CRM system, when you use the CRM system, you have your sales reps to use a sales pipeline and forecasting. Then you can give analysis to that sales pipeline and see whether it's increase, decrease, average deal size, the lead time, and the closing, the hit rate on closing. And those numbers, they will predict the cash flow in the next kind of 9 to 18 months. And kind of combining that CRM data and the first part of analyzing how the cash flow will be in the future. The same goes with the time tracking. The more control you have of the time of a project, billable hours, how much time you spend, whether that increase, decrease, will give you something, some information about the forecasting of cash flow and results in the future. So it all kind of fits together, but the core offering is kind of financial administration, but you need all those kind of inputs around it to be able to provide the customers with what they really need and what they really want to have now and also in the future.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to your P&L. Solid growth, 28%. What are the most important factors behind that?
It's a combination of a lot of things. We're selling to new customers. We have a very good product. We are increasing upselling on existing customers. So we provide new services to them. We have the go-to-market strategy of accounting firms. So we sell the system platform to the accounting company. One thing in the accounting industry is that the traditional business model for them is charge per invoiced hour. And the more efficient the systems are, the less hours and the less revenue. So they need to rethink their business model. We have the platform to be efficient. We have the platform to help them digitalize and be more efficient. So we get them on. We get one cell, one accountant, a lot of customers. And we work with accountants over the time to increase usage, and that increased usage will increase revenue as well.
Have you communicated like the proportion of what is new sales and what is upsales? No.
No.
Okay.
No.
So it's a mix.
It's a mix.
Yeah. Okay. So what is your view on acquiring and or integrating accounting and into your offering instead of partnering? What are the pros and cons of it? That's a question we have from an investor.
In accounting, do you mean kind of accounting firms or accounting software? Repeat it.
Good question. I guess it's software, but does that even make sense?
Could you repeat the question, please?
What is your view on acquiring and or integrating accounting into your offering instead of partnering?
Well, in the core software offering we have is accounting systems.
Yeah.
And we work with accounting firms. We provide them with technology. And if you look kind of 15 years back, we also started an accounting company. So we've owned an accounting company as part of 24/7 Office until 2010, where we sold that company. And we grew that company from, there were kind of 2 people when they started and 45 when we sold it. So we've been through a solid growth in accounting firm, as an accounting firm. But when you grow that size and you're going to go to the market as a technology, one thing is kind of the culture from an accounting company and a software company is 2 different cultures. Also, the other thing is that at that point, we were one of the biggest independent accounting firms. And when you're one of the biggest independent accounting firms and you go out to other accounting firms selling software as an independent vendor, it's not kind of we at that point we didn't have that credibility to be independent. So for us, it's better to divest that, focus on software, and take the knowledge we've had from that industry, growing our own accounting firm. And instead of building our own accounting company, we provide all accountants out there with best practice, good software, and that's where what motivates us the most is empowering the accountants to do their job better and give them superpowers with AI and all kind of automation and fintech, and help them serving good for their customers.
Okay, good. So just let's wrap it up with a final question. What do investors have to look forward to from you guys in 2021?
I think we've said that we're going to grow within the Rule of 40. So you see continuous growth, you'll see profitability, and you'll see more kind of what we've said in terms of M&A. You will see, if you look a bit longer than 2021, you'll see more international presence as well. We've acquired US companies, we have Sweden, we have Norway. So the platform is multinational. So in the years to come, you'll see good growth, profitability and acquisitions, and continuing developing and building a very good and decent kind of software offering to the business market.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Ståle, Risa, and good luck on your journey.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
So we'll take a short break again before we are back in a few minutes with Johan Krona, Cloud Capital. Thank you. So welcome back. I now have with me Johan Krona of Cloud Capital. Welcome very much.
Thank you. Very glad that you invited me. Looking forward to talking with you about SaaS.
Great. It's the topic of the day.
Yep.
And we've had visitors here from 5 very successful, interesting companies.
Yep.
I must say it's a privilege to have these companies listed and, being able for anyone just to invest with them in them. It's a really amazing thing, the stock market.
Yeah, I agree.
And even though you don't invest a lot perhaps in the stock market,
No.
you still get the chance to piggyback on some really successful entrepreneurs as well.
That's true.
So for people out there who don't know who you are, could you perhaps tell us a bit about yourself and how you ended up where you are today?
Yeah, sure. So my background is from university. It's computer science. So my basic training was both business administration and also computer programming and software development. And then from university and onwards, been an entrepreneur. So started several businesses from scratch together with different partners. But after about 10 years, I ended up at Almi Invest, and that's here in Sweden. That's a investment company, or it's a state-owned and run organization with both a loan part and a venture investing part. So I got the privilege to switch the side of the table, so to speak, and start investing in very early stages of tech companies. And when I was at Almi, the mandate was very broad, so it was both life science, clean tech, industrials, services, and other parts of the tech community, or the tech universe. But I had the opportunity, so the first 2 investments I did was actually SaaS companies, and this is back in 2010. And I don't think they actually called themselves SaaS companies at the point, but I sort of fell in love with the business model, and then tried to stay sort of focused on SaaS investing over the years at Almi Invest. But then after almost 7 years there, my sort of entrepreneurial spirit started to tell me that it was time to move on and start my own investment business. So I left Almi and started Cloud Capital the summer of 2017. And the basic idea then was to be a financier of SaaS businesses and provide the SaaS companies in the early stages with debt financing, because that was sort of a unique missing piece as I saw it in the marketplace, that we had more and more equity investors coming in, but I saw sort of the value of being able to provide debt to SaaS companies, and also that the business model is actually quite suitable to to use debt if you use it correctly and you know what you're doing, so to speak. So that was the starting point of Cloud Capital, and got a couple of private investors on board. So we started with a debt fund, but pretty early on in the days of the existence of cloud, we actually ran into a few investment opportunities that we wanted to pursue. So we also started sort of, we call them funds. They're not proper funds, but we call them that. And so now we actually have the capacity to do both debt financing and do investments and being shareholders in SaaS companies.
Okay, I see. And how do you source these investments? How do you find them?
Yeah, so since I've been working as sort of active in the SaaS space in Sweden since 2010, I've been running a network in different ways. I have had sort of meetup groups where we have met and discussed and tried to organize the community. I have a podcast and I've been part in different events such as this one. So actually we have a very good sort of inbound model where we get to see a lot of deals that they reach out to us because they know sort of that we are knowledgeable in the space and we're pretty sort of easy to get in touch with, and we're pretty, I think, to the point on our communication what we're looking for. So we see a lot of deals, and then of course we have a network of the companies and our co-investors in companies that from time to time come with suggestions of companies that they think that we should have a look at.
Okay.
So a lot of inbound actually. That's a good position to be in.
Yeah, definitely. I can imagine that. And more specifically, what are you looking for?
Yeah, I mean, in the early days, we're looking at companies that have some commercial traction. We are not the seed investor who invests typically in the team and an idea. We think that usually takes a few years to get the some commercial proof, and we're kind of hesitant to enter so early. So typically we say that we want to have around 5 or 10 million SEK in recurring revenues, just to give sort of a starting point in reference where we start looking at these companies, because then usually it's more about how to actually scale up the commercialization rather than sort of finding a product market fit, because that's harder and then we want to stay out of that phase. So more of the early scaling up phase is what we're looking for.
But it's pretty de-risked at that stage, and I can imagine that's also when you dare to really lend them the money.
Yep. Yeah, sure. We tend to start a discussion on is it possible to do it as a debt financing, but a lot of times companies, they also want to have sort of active owners. They know that active owners can help them a lot in developing the business. So in a lot of times we actually ended up investing or doing a combination. Actually, I think that is quite a powerful way of being partners with the entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I see, because that takes more of your engagement, and as opposite to if you lend them the money, then perhaps you don't get involved in the business as much. You just sit back and collect the interest.
Yeah, and you're maybe more looking at limiting your downside and making sure you get your money back.
Yeah.
When you're an investor, of course, you want to maximize the upside, which is a lot more fun.
Exactly.
So yeah.
And would you care to share some war stories with us? Like, one of your best investments, one of your worst investments, because those are probably the most where you can learn the most.
Yeah, sure.
Key takeaways.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have a few companies that, of course, are good investments and that I feel strongly about since I've been working with them a lot the last couple of years. I think the first one to mention is Kundo. They do a customer service software. So maybe a comparison is actually Zendesk or Intercom that a lot of people in the tech industry at least know about. But they're doing it with a more high-touch model, where they also a bit similar to Lime that you had here earlier, where they also work with the teams or with the customers' sort of internal processes to get this as valuable or being as successful as possible. So that company, actually, I've been engaged as an advisor when there was two employees, and was eventually elected into the board by the founders to be an active advisor to them, and also invested a little bit myself. And then actually Cloud came in 2018, and that was actually what's interesting with that story is that we both did a rather big debt financing to finance sort of operations, but we also bought shares from one of the founders. So he had left the company operationally, and he was also interested to sell his shares to move on. So we actually combined the two sort of possibilities that we have in our portfolio. So we did, finance the company with debt and then bought shares to be shareholder. And now we actually you tend to mix up the years now with the COVID year. So, but last year we brought in a new big investor called Standout Capital into the company. So they invested 50 million SEK, and that was sort of a testament for, of course, the team, but also for us that we invested in something that greatly appreciated in value. That such a big investment firm as Standout wanted to invest in, sort of further accelerating the growth. So that's one company. And you wanted some learnings from that.
Not so successful.
Yeah, the not so successful. Yeah, I think one that I tend to come back to that I missed. That's Mentimeter. For those who don't know them, it's they have sort of a similar company on the stock exchange called Kahoot, but it's to simplify, it's to do sort of surveys or engagement with your audience, so that you can get feedback from the audience with questions and polls. And I think the big mistake I did there, this was very, very early. I got the opportunity to invest in their only direct share emission that they have done. But at that point in time, they had quite high churn numbers.
Oh.
And when you look at a SaaS company, you learn pretty early that churn is sort of a big red flag, that if you have a high churn, it will eventually be impossible to grow because all your new sales will sort of just offset what you lost last year, so you will sort of plateau. And they had a quite high churn rate, so it was like, well, this will never be a substantial business. This will be really hard to. So what I missed there was, of course, that when you're really, really early, that data is not sort of the same as it will be when you have run the company for a couple of years, you invested more in the product, you learned more about sort of your best customers and how to tailor the product for them. And I know now that the churn is significantly less, and I should have sort of course invested, since that would have been a great investment, but also not look too hard at the numbers in the early phases. You have to be sort of thinking more about where can this company be in 3 or 5 years, rather than think that all these numbers are representative right now for
the future.
For the future.
Yeah. Okay. And just to give us an idea, a successful investment in your terms, let's say 3 to 5 years, how many X do you can you make? What is kind of standard? What is required to make your model work?
Yeah. So we have decided to have a model. We don't like the zeros. So if you look at the venture fund, they usually want to go for really big successes, and they're also okay to have huge risk taking because a few successes in a portfolio can return the whole fund.
Yeah.
But we don't like the zeros. We think they are really painful, not least because we're investing mostly our own money in Cloud Capital. So it's our own money that goes to zero. So our model is, rather than to look for companies where we can sort of with lower risk do at least 3-4 times our investment. And then of course we hope for that all of them or most of them or a few of them will return much more than that. But we also know that probably 1 or 2 of them will return less than 3x, and that could probably still be it will be okay for everybody involved. It can be really, really good for the entrepreneurs if they're big shareholders, but we don't want to see that as a failure for the model. So we rather have a lot of 2 or 3 X's and a few above that.
Real home runs.
Yeah, but we're not the most risk-taking sort of fund or entity in Stockholm. But yeah, we will find we have sort of found a way that we like and we think works for us, and so less of a downside and
I see.
less of risk.
And I started this event day today by listing a few growth drivers for the software as a service business model companies. What do you think are, if you would take 1 or 2 or 3 growth drivers, what do you think?
Yeah, so I mean that's what we're actually looking for in all the companies when we start analyzing them is of course sort of how efficient is the sales and the customer acquisition process, and is it possible to scale it a lot? So how much can we invest in the customer acquisition sort of engine? Is the market big enough so it can withstand huge investments, or do we need to sort of broaden our scope for different markets or more products so that we can keep on growing? So that's, I guess, the main analysis that we do actually to see the efficiency in the customer acquisition model.
And what would you say are the biggest benefits with the business model? Because as we have seen here during the day, investors tend to value sales at rather high multiples compared to other business models. What would you have to say about that?
Yeah, but I mean the one of the key as I see it, the benefits of the model is of course that you have when you reach sort of a tipping point in your base cost structure, it turns into extremely scalable business, since you will have gross margins of probably 80 to 90% to serve the next customer. And then you have a huge sort of gross profit that you can decide on how to allocate in your business, if it's more R&D or more marketing investments or profit to the shareholders. And if you unpack it further, I think the benefit in the business model is also for clients typically is that it's a lower threshold to try the product. So you can usually start with, I mean, even our smaller investments, they have a pretty basic product. As long as they solve a pain point for the customer, they get a lot of interest and they can start signing up clients really early on with a pretty basic product and start earning some income and then build their business from there. And for their clients, of course, the other hand is they can easily try new products, and if they don't like them, they can easily switch and try another one. So it keeps everybody on their toes in the SaaS industry, that it's pretty easy to change suppliers of SaaS solutions.
Yeah, it's kind of efficient in that way.
Yeah, it's tough, and I think that's maybe one of the key points in if you're new into the sector and what to look for in these companies, is start really to think about sort of what's the competitive advantage this company has in the long term. Is the remote for this company, or is it just for, because right now you can see a lot of companies growing really fast, but you must also understand it's a growing market. So it's sort of like there's not enough companies there to serve the demand probably in different sectors. And then you can start thinking about, okay, what will happen when sort of the demand is met?
Yeah. Exactly. And that's an interesting question, because we discussed this before this day, actually, I remember. And you said, I asked you if you saw any problems or threats in the future.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things you mentioned, that we could actually hit some kind of saturation in the market for certain services.
Yeah.
Are there any specific segments where you think this could be, be in a foreseeable future, or is it still like, at this point at least, you don't see an end to this growth?
Well, of course there will be an end. I mean, we have.
But can you see that from now? Like, I see signs of slow down and decline, perhaps in some segments. Not yet.
No, I think it's there's a lot of room left to grow, and I think I mean, I've done the mistake the last couple of years when it comes to investing in SaaS businesses in the public market, that you start to question sort of how much market is there left to grow in, and then when you look back a couple of years later, wow, there's still a lot of room left, and not least now because of COVID. I think the digitalization and the sort of the demand for well-built digital solutions have increased a lot, because now sort of you forced a lot of organizations into start working remote with video conferencing and collaboration tools. So that has of course increased and pushed forward sort of or pushed this way the demand a lot. So for at least, I mean, I would say a few more years, there's a lot of room for all the companies to grow. But on the other hand, I mean, if you look at doing investments, then what you have to look out for is sort of what will happen if you invest in a very high valuation in a company that's then the growth stalls, because then you sort of have several problems at the same time. That you sort of lower your expectations on the future, and then the multiple contracts on that. So you can probably
multiplier effect downwards.
You get several multiplier effects. So that's sort of you have to take into consideration, at least in sort of you get the feeling, not least the last couple of 5 days on the stock market, everybody's sort of dancing really close to the door. And when stuff starts, people start talking about inflation and higher interest rates, everybody runs to the door, and you get these sort of ripple effects where funds start to sell. They have to sell everything because you know this better than me, but that's sort of a little warning sign that we are at high levels right now, and everybody's a little bit nervous that they want to be first out of the door, and that's not a good place to be in.
If
you miss that.
If you invest in private companies, this is not a big headache of yours, I guess.
No, but the sort of a problem is usually that there is a lag in how to see on valuations between private and public markets. So I think the expectations have been increasing in the private market because everybody's looking at sort of valuations in the public market and take that sort of back into their companies in the private market. I mean, everything equal, you need to have some sort of discount just from being private. And then if you, as we think, a lot of valuations are in the high side right now in the public market, then you don't want to be buying stuff in when everything is sort of highly valued, because
so now
then
you should be exiting your portfolio, perhaps.
Maybe. But on the other hand, you still see a lot of room for them because they're so small to grow. So I think it's a long game that you should think about owning the companies for at least 5 or 10 years when you enter them, and not doing sort of at least that's not our strategy, to do like a quick flip and just going from private to public. That's not the game we want to play.
But have you been tempted to push these companies onto the public floor?
No, I don't think we are tempted. It's more of, I mean, the way we invest in a company, we are usually a minority shareholder, and we want to have the founders in the driving seat. But we have had that discussion in a few of the companies that have been around now for 10 years, and they see things happening in the landscape strategically. And then, of course, when they at the same time see the valuations in the stock market, and say, okay, maybe it's a good time to list and try to raise a lot of capital in order to, for instance, start buying our competitors or being part of a consolidation. So absolutely, we have that discussion in several boards and owner groups in the companies. But it's not just sort of let's flip the company in order to reap the high valuations. I don't think anyone is having that kind of discussion.
Okay. Are there any companies or industry segments that you think have done a really good job with the business model?
Yeah, I mean, for instance, I think one interesting sector is the CRM industry. I mean, you have sort of the sales force that's super massive and keep on growing, even though it's one of the largest companies on earth, and it's still growing really fast. But on the other hand, you have, I think, if you Google or enter CRM into Crunchbase, you get like 10,000 suppliers. So that tells you something about sort of the dynamics, even when you from your first level thinking is probably, well, Salesforce will eat everything. Well, they moved into certain segments now, and they're really expensive and huge. There will be room for other players to have niche offerings for. I mean, you had Lime here, for instance. It's a fantastic company, and they have found a way to be really competitive in different verticals and with their model. So I think, that tells you something about you can't sort of disqualify any sector. There's good investment opportunities if you know your way around in the market and how to develop the product and the packaging for a subset of a sector.
Yeah, and it's so diverse. Like, I'm thinking about Irisity, that is leveraging the trend in security to digitalize that. And another sector that comes to mind that it's normally not associated with the business model is perhaps gaming, where you have some genres where the retention is really high and the players keep on playing the game, you know, for years. And even though it's not always a subscription-based model, there are still, you know, DLCs coming out, and you know, players stick to the game, and yeah,
for sure.
yeah. So, but do you consider those type of investments as well? Do they cross your path, or?
Yes, a little bit. Not games, because I think we're too cautious around sort of having the consumer as the end user of a product, because at the end of the day, they are pretty volatile. In suddenly, you know, a new game emerges that everybody wants to play, and then they are very disloyal. At least in comparison to if you have had a business software sort of implemented into an organization, and you know 15 people are working with it every day, then it's not just that someone from one day to another say, let's change the system. It's like, no. We train this and we have all the reports and all the data. It's a lot more sticky, of course. So not any consumer products. We tend to have a look at sometimes subscription-based business ideas targeting consumers, but we haven't done anything yet. We're too busy with the B2B companies.
Plenty of room there still.
Yes, I think so.
But there are quite a few investors specializing in that space. It seems to be quite a sweet spot, and it's been driving up valuations, of course. Is that something that you see as a problem, that you know you say no to investments because the entrepreneurs or owners' expectations are perhaps a bit on the high side, especially in these times?
Every day. Every day. Yeah.
I see. So you have to find those still, you know, a bit humble enough, and.
Yeah, but I think it's a lot about the journey that you're going to do together, and I think valuation is not only, of course, an investor will always have a low valuation because it can increase your financial return. But I think what's often missed in that discussion is what you lose when you have a really high valuation is the optionality, because then you're sort of stuck with a lot of investors coming in. And what happens if the market changes and all the valuations are sort of just drops with 50%? Then sort of your way of the different options you then have for the company, for instance, to merge with someone else, bring in more capital, sell the company, it gets impossible because you have investors that will actually lose money from a transaction that maybe for you as a founder will be really interesting to do on both from on a business side and also financial side. So I think that is sort of a little bit lost in the discussion, that you think you should have a reasonable valuation. Of course, we're not interested either in sort of diluting the founders, because we want to have them in the driver's seat and have them as much ownership as possible. But the trick is sort of the company can only consist of 100%. It's hard to change that. And you have to find a balance on how to develop the companies in different stages and bring on the right amount of capital on the right valuation in the right step. So definitely. That you have left the optionality that say, all right, this will not work out. We need to merge with someone else. Well, if the valuation in the last round was reasonable, then that probably will end up being a really good deal for everybody. So I think that is something I would like to stress when it comes to valuation also.
Yeah, balance seems to be the key word. The right funding and the right valuation at the right time, kind of.
And it's a chess game with multiple sort of steps. So don't maximize here and now, because as the market has been the last couple of years, of course, you can always find someone sort of willing to pay more. But that's just optimizing this move. But you will actually have to play maybe 10 more moves or 20 more moves until the game is come to an end. And if you sub-optimize the first move, then you limit your options down the line. So,
I understand. Makes perfect sense. And you've been... Cloud Capital has been around for just a few years, still pretty young. I understand your commitment to the project, company, your co-investors, etc., and you seem to be having a really good time there successfully. But still, you mentioned that you have this entrepreneurial set of mind as well, and it must be inspiring for you to see meet all these entrepreneurs. So I'm just guessing that there might be, like, somewhere in the back of your head an idea that one day you would like to run your own business within this space. right or wrong?
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a good hypothesis to have around.
Yeah.
But I have so far these last 4 years I've seen Cloud Capital as my own startup.
Of course.
So
of course.
in that sense, it's a very much an entrepreneurial journey to be on.
Yeah.
But it's interesting with the SaaS businesses they're fantastic businesses to build. So it would be fun to sort of be even closer to some of those businesses than just investing in them.
So let's conclude with this, like a hypothetical situation where you would had to quit your job, and start a new company. What would that company look like?
In terms of?
Well, anything. I mean, would you go for? Obviously, it would be a business to business.
Yeah, sure. It would be a SaaS business. Yeah,
it's a SaaS business, business to business. Would it be in a specific vertical, geographies?
Okay, yeah. No, I think what would be interesting is, of course, to build a company that could be international from day one.
Yeah.
So try to build a company with a sort of a product-led approach, where clients or potential customers can sign up online and purchase the system by themselves. The Dropbox model or the Slack model. I think that's we don't have that many actually successful ones coming out of Sweden or Nordics. We have Mentimeter and a few others, but most of them tend to lean towards more of outbound sales model, where you go to an enterprise and you want to sell a contract for at least a few $100,000 per customer. And it would be interesting to build sort of a really substantial international software company out of Sweden with that sort of low touch model, really scalable. That would be a lot of fun.
So for all you entrepreneurs out there, now you know what's on the top of Johan's wish list.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else you would like to add before we conclude?
No, I think it was really a lot of fun to be here, and it's a lot of fun to talk with you about SaaS. Thank you very much for insightful questions.
Thank you very much, Johan, and thank you very much to all viewers. And stay tuned for more tech events from Vator Securities.